One of the most collectible firearms, at least as far as 22s go, is the Remington Nylon 66 in the different colors. And maybe when you start watching this video, you've never heard of the Remington Nylon 66, but you probably have. And it came in different colors, but before I talk about the different colors of stock that they came with, I just wanted to mention, with collecting and in collectors' circles, usually what happens is a firearm comes out and people buy the most common, most useful version of whatever model. So for example, if you go out and buy a Winchester 88 or try to buy one, it'll probably be in 308. But when they were offered in the market, they were offered in 284 and other calibers, but people didn't buy those calibers. Those are the calibers, those are the guns that become valuable. And that applies to the Winchester 88, the Winchester 100, actually the Winchester 100 carbine, which I have right here. So it just comes to mind because I was looking at it. That is a valuable Model 100. It's a carbine, and it's also in 284. By the way, I get a lot of notes about pronouncing carbine. Other people say carbine. I just grew up with carbine, and it's hard for me to shift over, so it's kind of like a disability, if you like. But hopefully that's all right with you. Anyway, I give that as an example, and those of you that are starting to collect firearms probably can benefit from that. But getting back to and I know lots of those rare guns that people in Europe pay a lot of money for, and in North America or anywhere, just really rare guns. Of course, age helps, so the older the gun and the more unusual it is. But we can talk about that over time. Getting back to the 66 nylon, so there was Mohawk brown. That was the most common color. Now, as usual, I contradict myself. I was going to say, here is a Mohawk brown nylon 66, but it's actually not a nylon 66. It's the clip-fed version, so I think they called it a 77 or something like that to give it to differentiate the models. But the idea is not the clip-fed or tube-fed, which would be the 66. It's the stock color, and a lot of people love these nylon stocked rifles. And I have to say, they're very unique. A lot of people grew up with them. After all this time, most of them look a lot like this one because the nylon stock is so tough. It was a rifle well ahead of its time. And when you're collecting guns, you meet a lot of people, and sentiment is a big part of collecting. You know, what your dad maybe used, or your grandpa, or even further back than that, is a big part of the meaning of collecting, not just guns, but collecting anything. Whatever this model is, and I think it is a 77, this is the Mohawk brown, and then there's a black version, which I don't have on the table, because I don't have one right now, and I think we can all picture black. I don't think that's hard to imagine, so there's no confusion with that. But there's a color in between that is the scarcest one, which is Seneca green. And I have that on the table, and I just am going to show you the difference, because there are so many Seneca green 22s being sold which are not Seneca green. And now I'll give you a side story. You know, as a collector, and I'm talking now, most of my adult life, you run into a lot of characters. And I ran into one guy, and he perceived me as some kind of like senseless collector that bought guns like popcorn. And that's doubly funny because I don't really buy popcorn, especially in movie theaters. It's too expensive. But anyway, he thought if he showed me any gun, I would buy it. And I mentioned I'm looking for a Seneca green nylon Remington. And that's why we have these odd props on the table. He brought me a gun that it wasn't quite this green, but it was something like this green. It was more like this green, which is a Remington green, and I put this on the table deliberately to entice you. This is a very collectible shotgun. that Remington made only for a few years. Took me a long time to find one. I've had it in the vault forever. It's the 105 CTI. You can see it as a carbon graphite top to the receiver. We're going to look at that another time. But he brought me these guns almost like a fashion show. He brought me a 22 that had this color, something like that, and he was just trying to get, I guess, lures to see what I would bite. But Seneca green is very close to Mohawk brown. Here are the two colors. We fiddled around with the lighting, actually the studio people did, so that we got it so you could actually finally see the difference. Because when you look at them at first blush, you think, well, they're the same. This is the Mohawk brown, like the standard color, most common, 22 long rifle. And then here's the Seneca green. And you probably think, well, this one is brown too. But if you take that in sunlight, you'll see that it is definitely not brown, even though it looks like it, which kind of maybe is part of the reason why people are so much after that stock. It has kind of different meanings depending on what light you look at it. Now, some of you will probably send me messages, well, what's this one worth? So a regular nylon is maybe between $200 and $400 depending on condition. A lot of them have been used a lot. This one would be at the high end of the value range. And the Seneca greens, I've seen them change hands for like $1,100 because they're just so scarce. And to find one without the usual scratches like this one does not have the scratches, which is about the only thing that happens to these nylon stocked rifles. They don't seem to fade or blister. There's no finish on them. Not a normal concept of finish anyway. So it's just scratches you're talking about. Yeah, so 900, 600, I mean, in a way it's arbitrary depending on the buyer. But just fabulous guns. And there are a lot of fellows I know, try to move slowly so the camera people can keep up with it, that own the Mohawk, the Seneca, and the black. And it does make a nice collection. And of course none of these are being made, so they're like real estate. The value only goes up for all of them, even the Mohawk. What a fantastic 22 in whatever configuration, tube fed or clip fed. Some people say terrible things about these plastic magazines, but they're actually excellent. Anyhow, I hope that sorts out the Seneca green problem, and I sure hope this filming is working out. We rehearsed trying to make sure that you can see the difference in color. And I put this on the table because this is another, I mean, people do amazing things to try to get a collector to think that, you know, this is the one that they want. But it's very subtle, hard to see, but the value is there. If you can get a Seneca green Nylon 66, it's fantastic. And they may well have made the lever action and the clip-fed version in that, I don't know. When I saw this one, I just knew I had to buy it because you just don't come across them. But anyhow, a little bit of a different video, but people had asked me about these Seneca greens now for 2 years. So I thought I better show you. And if you get one, yeah, you can probably, you know, keep it and sell it. But I just wouldn't bother because I find that you sell something that's really scarce and you get good money for them because they are scarce, but then you don't have it anymore. All you have is money, which sounds funny to say so, but cash, in a way, is worthless. It has to be applied to something. So I always think the Seneca green is probably the nicest of the nylons, which is why people like it. It has a different aspect to it, but you'd have to own one or handle one to see it. Anyhow, there it is. So I hope that's useful for the people that asked that question and everybody else. And we'll move on to the next video. It's more and more important that you subscribe. They continue to demonetize, and it's a complete mystery to me. I'm not angry at anybody, but we just, and again, I'm a little ignorant with the web and how it works, but I see what the producers do. We virtually just post the video on YouTube and it's demonetized. right away, unsuitable and all that stuff, they couldn't even have watched the video. So it has to be an algorithm that detects words or something about what I'm saying to you. And I think these are very benign words, probably one of the more benign YouTube channels. And I'm hoping that changes. But anyway, important for you to subscribe, please. And join me on Patreon if you can. Helps a lot, actually more than you know. And Instagram as well. We're trying to grow that whole thing, which I can't explain because I don't know it myself, but I'm told to say these words. So thank you very much for watching. Sorry for laughing. It's just things that don't make sense to me get funny. And we'll see you on the next video. Take care out there.